There's a sneaky filmmaking technique in Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl that turns the movie from a fun summer romp into an emotionally spellbinding thrill ride, and today we're going to reveal this secret. So I've been doing a massive case study on arguably one of the best films over the last 20 years, Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. And first of all, if you're watching this in early 2023, how in the world is this film nearly 20 years old, and how in the world has it held up so well? This is just a darn fun romp, and today I really want to focus on the midpoint scene. In Pirates of the Caribbean, this is the scene on the Interceptor below deck between Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann after he's rescued her from Barbossa and the first curse reveal ceremony. Will is lovingly bandaging her hand, and they share a moment where they look gently at each other, lean in, and almost kiss. I didn't see this film in theaters, to be honest, but I have to imagine a gasp of bottled frustration went out from the crowd. Are you kidding me? We've been waiting half the movie and watched Will Turner sail halfway around the Caribbean for the girl he loves, and now they just don't kiss? Didn't he just save her? What the heck? That's what I imagined they were saying, in my head anyway. Friends and fellow filmmakers though, that's actually exactly where you want your audience. There's a vital aspect of filmmaking called tension, and you want to keep your audience on this thin, precarious line of tension for as long as you can. Because as long as there is tension, the audience will absolutely beg to keep watching. And this is why. Audiences don't want what they already have. They want what they don't have. And in this film, they really want that kiss between Will and Elizabeth. So naturally, the filmmakers smartly didn't give the kiss to the audience, at least not at this point. This scene is a micro payoff in that it acknowledges to the audience what they want. From the very beginning, the movie sets up that you're supposed to want Will and Elizabeth to be together, but if you look at the structure of the film, they spend precious little time on screen together. This scene below deck is only the second dialogue scene between the adult versions of these characters, and it happens to take place during the pivotal midpoint scene. Now, the midpoint scene in every good movie is where the characters learn or finally acknowledge some truth. They might not act on that truth yet, but at least they realize that truth is there and they have to deal with it. In this case, despite her fascination of pirates, Elizabeth verbalizes that she was actually afraid that Will was a pirate and how awful that would have been. And for the first time, although Will had previously been confronted with his truth, he finally accepts that his blood is the blood of a pirate.
Blood of a pirate.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Stripping away all that angst, this moment itself would have been perfect for these characters to finally express their love, but the truths they're coming to terms with are bubbling under the surface and turns them, at least temporarily, away from each other. The emotions they're dealing with and the truths they're wrestling with simply overcome their desire for each other, to which the audience subconsciously howls in frustration. We've been waiting for this moment for so long and now we don't get it? That's right though, we introduce more tension into the story at this point, and arguably at a deeper level. If the kiss had happened here, the rest of the movie could have been fine, but ultimately just one big rescue attempt from here on out, kinda surface level. I'd absolutely argue that if Will and Elizabeth had kissed here, Pirates of the Caribbean wouldn't nearly have received as much love as it's had over the last 20 years. But by denying the kiss when the characters had the chance, the stakes have been raised. Do the characters still like each other? What is the status of their relationship now? By interrupting that kiss with the characters' own struggles, the tension line grows, and perhaps despite themselves, the audience now has no choice but to ride with them to the very end. But let's not stop there. We even get one additional moment where a kiss opportunity is totally available right after the final battle and the falling action effectively begins. Will and Elizabeth have this kind of quiet moment together in the cave, and you think that kind of maybe they're going to acknowledge their love. I mean, they just fought together and defeated the villains. Perfect opportunity, right? If this was the proper end of the movie, sure, why not? But we still have multiple emotional story arcs to wrap up. Villains have been defeated, but Jack Sparrow still doesn't have the Black Pearl, Elizabeth is still engaged to Commodore Norrington, which we know she doesn't want, and Will still has to deal with both the knowledge of his piratey ancestry, so to speak, and the fact that his beloved is engaged to Commodore Norrington. Will and Elizabeth both know that a future together is, well, quite unlikely, so they beat around the bush by saying,
We should return to the Dauntless.
Your fiancé will be wanting to know you're safe.
Now, this isn't a video on subtext and dialogue, but those are two fantastic lines where the characters say what they mean to say by saying something else entirely. And in this case, that means, once again, rejecting a moment of true love, or something like that. But the filmmakers, through Jack Sparrow, acknowledge this lost opportunity when Jack says,
If you were waiting for the opportune moment,
That was it.
From there, Will and Elizabeth literally need to put their lives and futures at stake for another chance at this moment that we've now waited about 2 hours for. The main thing that keeps us, the audience, going through the final moments of the guillotine climax is really wanting to know how, for goodness sake, Will and Elizabeth's story will end. Tension, tension, and more tension. The audience still doesn't get what they want until all other plot threads have wrapped, and then finally, the plot can exhale and deliver on the promise that was implied from literally the very first sentence. And then finally, everyone can breathe a sigh as the music swells to signify that yes, the tension is now released and all is well in our hero's world. Denying the audience what they wanted most, that darn kiss and acknowledgement of love, is really what pushes the emotional plot thread of Pirates of the Caribbean into S tier. So, the big budget question, how do you apply this to your own film projects? First and foremost, always put yourself in your audience's shoes. You may be tempted to think that if you give your audience what they want, that'll make them love your story. But the exact opposite is what's true. Keep the tension going and going and going for as long as you possibly can. We might not like tension in real life, but I know you've come out of a movie saying, that was so great. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And that's because of tension. It may seem backwards, but audiences absolutely love not being given what they want, at least not until the most opportune moment for the story, which is usually at the very end. Would we really care about the sweeping kiss at the end of Pirates of the Caribbean if Will and Elizabeth had kissed earlier in the film? There's absolutely no way. This final moment isn't just the climax of Will and Elizabeth's story in this film, it's the moment where the remaining tension is finally swept away, and us in the audience gets to sigh in relief with them, and truly appreciate both the moment and what it took to get there. The tension builds and builds and builds until it can do nothing but burst. And that's what you want to do with your stories. Always pay things off for your audience, but make them squirm to get there. Not like awkward squirm, just give them some healthy anxiety and make them question if what they want from the characters will actually ever happen or not. That is what breeds tension. I'd absolutely love to know what other scenes or filmmaking secrets you'd like to unlock, so drop a comment with some ideas.